The world spun, and I was no longer in my cramped apartment, staring at a laptop screen filled with the latest BL novel. Instead, I stood in the middle of a bustling college campus, the air crisp with autumn and the chatter of students echoing like a movie soundtrack. My heart pounded because Jamie Carter, a 24-year-old nobody who'd just been reading Campus Kings for the third time, had somehow transmigrated into its pages. Not as the dashing protagonist, mind you. Not even as a quirky sidekick. No, I was Ethan Wells, a background character so forgettable the novel barely mentioned him beyond quiet kid in the back of the lecture hall. Ethan was a ghost, a nobody who faded into the story's margins while the real drama unfolded around Lucas Reed, the campus idol whose every smile sent hearts racing. I glanced down at my hands calloused, unfamiliar, clutching a tattered notebook with Ethan's name scrawled on it. This was real. I was him. The worst part, I knew how this story ended. Lucas, the golden boy, was destined to fall for Aiden, the brooding artist, in a whirlwind romance that left the campus in awe. Ethan, he didn't even get a line of dialogue. But as I stood there, trying to process my new reality, a shadow fell over me. I looked up, and there he was, Lucas Reed, all 6 feet of him, his blonde hair catching the sunlight like some kind of halo. His blue eyes locked onto mine, and for reasons I couldn't fathom. He grinned. Hey, Ethan. Right. His voice was warm, like honey over gravel, and my stomach did a flip that definitely wasn't in the script. You dropped this. He held out a pencil, one I didn't even realize I'd lost. My mouth went dry. Lucas Reed, the guy who never noticed anyone outside his inner circle, was talking to me. Thanks, I mumbled, taking the pencil. My fingers brushed his, and a spark shot through me, like I'd touched a live wire. Lucas's grin widened, and instead of walking away like he was supposed to, he lingered. You're in my lit class, aren't you? Always scribbling in that notebook. What's in there? Poetry. Secrets. I froze. Ethan wasn't supposed to have secrets. He wasn't supposed to have anything. But Lucas's eyes were curious, not mocking, and something in his gaze made my chest tighten. Just notes, I said, clutching the notebook like a lifeline. Lucas chuckled, and before I could process it, he was walking beside me, his shoulder brushing mine as we crossed the quad. This wasn't how the story went. Lucas was supposed to be charming Aiden at the art gallery tonight, not wasting his charisma on a nobody like me. But as we walked, he kept talking about the weather, the professor's awful taste in ties, the way the leaves crunched under our feet. It was mundane, but every word felt like a spotlight. And I, the background nobody, was suddenly center stage. Over the next week, I tried to stick to Ethan's role, keep my head down, blend into the wallpaper, avoid the main cast. But Lucas was relentless. He'd appear out of nowhere at the library where I hid to read, at the coffee cart where I grabbed my daily black coffee, even outside my dorm, leaning against the wall like he'd been waiting for me. Each time, he'd flash that disarming smile, and I'd feel my carefully constructed walls crumble. Ethan, you're hard to pin down, he said one afternoon, catching me outside the lecture hall. His tone was teasing, but his eyes were earnest, searching my face like I was a puzzle he needed to solve. Why do you always look like you're about to bolt? Because I'm not supposed to be here. I wanted to scream. Because you're the campus idol. and I'm a glitch in your story. Instead, I shrugged, muttering something about being shy. Lucas laughed, a sound so bright it made my heart ache. You're cute when you're flustered, he said, and I nearly choked on my own breath. Cute. Cute. Ethan Wells wasn't cute. He was invisible. But Lucas didn't seem to care about the script. That night, he dragged me to a campus bonfire, the kind of event Ethan would never attend. The flames cast flickering shadows across his face as he handed me a marshmallow skewer, his fingers lingering on mine. You ever gonna tell me what's in that notebook? He asked, his voice low, intimate. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. The notebook was Ethan's, not mine, but I'd started doodling in its sketches of the campus. Fragments of poetry I'd never admit to writing. It's nothing special, I said, but Lucas leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. I bet it's special to you, he said softly, and that makes it worth seeing. My heart stopped. This wasn't just off-script, it was a whole new story. And as the firelight danced in his eyes, I realized I was in deep trouble. Because Lucas Reed, the campus idol, wasn't just clinging to me. He was rewriting my world, and I wasn't sure I could resist. The days blurred into a haze of stolen moments. Lucas would find me between classes, insisting we grab lunch or study together. He'd text me at midnight, asking random questions like, "What's your favorite constellation?" Or, "Ever tried to count the stars?" I'd lie awake, staring at my phone, wondering why the universe had dropped me into this body, this life, this impossible situation. But the real plot twist came during midterms. I was in the library, buried in a pile of books, when Aiden himself stormed in. Tall, dark-haired, with a scowl that could freeze lava. He was every bit the tortured artist the novel painted him to be. And he was glaring at me. You're Ethan, right? His voice was sharp, cutting through the library's hush. What's your deal with Lucas? My stomach dropped. This was the moment the story snapped back into place. Aiden was supposed to confront Lucas's distractions and spark their epic romance. But as I stammered, trying to explain I was nobody, Aiden's eyes narrowed. He's been talking about you nonstop. Whatever you're doing, it's messing with him. Messing with him. Lucas was the one messing with me. But before I could respond, Lucas appeared, his expression stormy. Aiden, back off, he said, stepping between us. His hand brushed my arm. Protective. Possessive. And my heart did that stupid flip again. Aiden's jaw tightened. You're blowing off the gallery opening for him. What's so special about this guy? Lucas didn't hesitate. Everything, he said, his voice steady, his eyes locked on mine. The library seemed to vanish, leaving just the two of us, the air crackling with something I couldn't name. Aiden stormed out, but Lucas didn't move. He just stood there, his hand still on my arm, his gaze soft and unyielding. Ethan, he said quietly, I don't know what's going on in that head of yours, but I'm not letting you disappear on me. I wanted to tell him the truth that I wasn't Ethan, that I didn't belong here, that he was meant for someone else. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I let him pull me into a quiet corner of the library, where he opened my notebook and read the poetry I'd scribbled in secret. His fingers traced the words, and when he looked up, his eyes were shining. You're not a nobody, Ethan, he whispered. Not to me. And in that moment, I didn't care about the script anymore. I was falling. Hard. And there was no going back. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of stolen glances and late-night talks. Lucas was everywhere waiting outside my classes, sneaking me into the music room to play the piano, dragging me to stargazing spots on the edge of campus. Each moment felt like a rebellion against the story I knew, a story where I was supposed to fade away. But Lucas made fading impossible. His laughter, his touch, the way he said my name like it was something precious, it all pulled me deeper into a role I was never meant to play. Yet the weight of the original plot loomed over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stealing someone else's happy ending. Aiden's glares grew sharper, his presence a constant reminder of the love story I was derailing. One night, as Lucas and I sat on a hill overlooking the campus, his head resting on my shoulder, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Lucas," I said, my voice trembling. "Why me? You could have anyone. Why someone like me?" He sat up, his brow furrowing. "Someone like you," he echoed, as if the question offended him. "Ethan, you're real. You don't put on a show. You don't chase clout. You're just you. And that's more than enough." His words hit like a tidal wave, washing away my doubts, but leaving new ones in their wake. I wasn't Ethan, not really. I was Jamie, a stranger in this body, in this world. But as Lucas leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a kiss that felt like starlight, I let myself believe, just for a moment, that I could be enough. The campus buzzed with rumors. Lucas Reed, the untouchable idol, was spending all his time with some nobody named Ethan. I overheard whispers in the cafeteria, saw curious glances in the halls. It was thrilling, terrifying, and utterly surreal. But the real storm came during the annual talent show, where Lucas was set to perform a solo that would, in the novel, cement his bond with Aiden. I sat in the back, trying to stay invisible, when Lucas bounded onto the stage with his guitar. The crowd roared, but his eyes found me in the sea of faces. "This one's for someone special," he said, his voice carrying over the mic. My heart stopped as he strummed the opening chords of a song I'd never heard, one that wasn't in the book. The lyrics were raw, heartfelt, about finding light in unexpected places, about a heart that beat louder than the noise of the world. Each word felt like it was written for me. And when he sang, "You're my nowhere, my everywhere," I couldn't breathe. The crowd erupted, but Lucas didn't care. He hopped off the stage, weaving through the audience until he reached me, pulling me into a hug that drowned out the cheers. "Ethan," he whispered against my ear, "I'm in this. All the way." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to stay in that moment forever. But as we left the auditorium, Aiden was waiting, his expression a mix of hurt and fury. "You're throwing everything away for him," he spat, his voice low but venomous. "You're making a mistake. Lucas." Lucas's grip on my hand tightened. "The only mistake would be letting him go," he said, and my heart soared even as guilt gnawed at me. Aiden's eyes flickered to me, and for the first time, I saw something beyond anger pain, raw and unguarded. He turned and walked away, and I felt the story's threads unraveling further. That night, I couldn't sleep. The weight of my secret pressed down on me. I wasn't just disrupting Lucas and Aiden's love story, I was rewriting Ethan's life. A life that wasn't mine to claim. What if I was trapping Lucas in a story that wasn't meant to be? What if the universe corrected itself, yanking me back to my old life and leaving Ethan to pick up the pieces? I slipped out of my dorm and wandered to the oak tree where Lucas and I had first talked. The campus was quiet, the stars bright above. I opened my notebook, staring at the poems I'd written, words about longing, about finding home in someone else's eyes. They were Jamie's words, not Ethan's, and yet they'd drawn Lucas closer. Footsteps crunched behind me. I turned to find Lucas, his expression soft but worried. Couldn't sleep either, he asked, sitting beside me. He didn't push, didn't ask why I looked like I was carrying the world on my shoulders. He just waited, his presence steady, grounding. I don't belong here, I blurted out, the words spilling before I could stop them. I'm not who you think I am. Lucas frowned, but he didn't pull away. Then tell me who you are, he said gently. Because whoever you are, I'm not going anywhere. I wanted to tell him everything about transmigration, about the novel, about the life I'd left behind. But the words caught in my throat. Instead, I handed him the notebook, letting him read the truth in my poetry. He turned the pages slowly, his fingers tracing the words. And when he looked up, his eyes were fierce with determination. These are you, he said. And I'm falling for you, Ethan, or whoever you are. That's all that matters. For the first time, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, I could write my own ending. The next month was a dream I didn't want to wake from. Lucas and I were inseparable, our days filled with quiet moments and loud laughter, stolen kisses and shared secrets. But the closer we grew, the more I felt the stories pull, like a tide trying to drag me back to the sidelines. Aiden's absence was a shadow over us, withdrawn from campus events, his art studio locked, his presence a ghost in the novel's unwritten pages. One evening, as Lucas and I lay on a blanket under the stars, he turned to me, his expression serious. Ethan, I need to know you're in this too, he said. Because I'm all in. But sometimes it feels like you're holding back. He wasn't wrong. My fear of breaking the story off, breaking him, kept me tethered to doubt. I took a deep breath, ready to confess everything, when a voice cut through the night. Ethan. It was Aiden, standing at the edge of the clearing, his face pale under the moonlight. We need to talk. Lucas tensed, but I squeezed his hand, nodding. Aiden led me to the art studio, where his latest painting sat unfinished, a chaotic swirl of colors, a storm on canvas. This is what you're doing to me, he said, his voice raw. To Lucas. To everything. I flinched, guilt clawing at me. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? He snapped. Steal his heart. Ruin the one thing I thought I had. His voice broke, and I saw the boy beneath the anger, the one who'd loved Lucas in silence for years. I thought I could wait, that he'd see me eventually. But then you came along, and now I'm losing him. I wanted to tell him it wasn't my fault, that I hadn't chosen this. But as I looked at Aiden, I realized the truth I had chosen. Every time I let Lucas pull me closer, every time I let myself fall, I'd chosen this new story over the old one. And it was breaking Aiden's heart. I'm sorry, I said, my voice barely a whisper. But I love him. Aiden's eyes widened, then softened, as if my words had both wounded and freed him. Then fight for him, he said finally. Because if you don't, You'll both regret it. The campus winter ball was the novel's climax, where Lucas and Aiden were supposed to confess their love under twinkling lights. I stood in the corner of the decorated gym, my heart pounding as Lucas approached, his suit sharp, his smile brighter than the chandeliers. "Dance with me," he said, holding out his hand. I hesitated, knowing this was the moment the story should reclaim its path. But as Lucas pulled me onto the dance floor, his arms steady around me, I let go of the script. We swayed to the music, the world fading until it was just us, two hearts beating against the odds. Then the music stopped. A spotlight swung toward us, and Aiden's voice echoed over the mic. "This is for Lucas," he said, and my stomach dropped, expecting him to reclaim his role. But instead, he spoke of letting go, of finding peace in loving someone enough to set them free. The crowd was silent, then erupted in applause as Aiden stepped down, his eyes meeting mine with a nod of acceptance. Lucas's grip tightened, his voice low. "Ethan, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I choose you." Tears stung my eyes as I realized I was no longer a background nobody. I was part of something real, something worth fighting for. "I choose you too," I whispered. And when we kissed, the crowd's cheers felt like the universe rewriting itself. Months later, spring bloomed across the campus, and I stood under the same oak tree where it all began. Lucas was beside me, his hand in mine, my notebook now filled with poems we'd written together. Aiden had found his own path, his art flourishing, his heart healing. The story I'd known was gone, replaced by one we'd created, a story of love, courage, and defying the roles we were given. I didn't know if I'd ever return to my old life, or if I was Ethan for good. But as Lucas leaned in, his lips brushing mine, I knew one thing: I'd found my place. Not as a nobody, but as someone who belonged. And that was worth every twist, every turn, every heartbeat.